pull up to a pump in August and the number on the sign is higher than it was in February. Everybody's got the same explanation ready. Summer, road trips, everyone's out driving. Demand goes up, price follows. That's barely it. The gasoline coming out of that nozzle in August is a physically different liquid from the one that came out in February. Different ingredients, different chemistry, different behavior in the heat. Same brand, same octane sticker, same nozzle, different product. And nobody mentions it, because nobody has to. Now you'd assume the summer version costs more because they put something expensive into it. They don't. Every spring, refiners take something away. It's the cheapest thing in the entire barrel. It's called butane, and it's the same stuff that's inside a cigarette lighter. If you're watching this in January, it's in your tank right now, roughly 1 gallon in every 10. So why does pulling the cheap thing back out make you pay more? Start with the thing almost nobody realizes. Gasoline isn't a substance, it's a recipe. Dozens of different hydrocarbons blended together, and refiners adjust that blend constantly, by season, by region, by what came out of the ground that month. And the dial they're turning is a single number. It's called Reid vapor pressure, and it measures exactly one thing: how badly the liquid wants to stop being a liquid, how hard it's pushing to become vapor, and the higher the number, the more eager it is. Butane's number is about 52. Finished summer gasoline is capped at 9. Butane is also cheap, and everywhere it falls out of natural gas processing and out of the refinery itself in enormous quantities with nowhere particularly glamorous to go. So blending it into gasoline solves two problems at once. It's an easy way to hit the volatility you want in cold weather, and it's basically free volume. Pour butane in, and the same barrel of crude turns into more gallons you can sell. Winter gasoline runs around 10% butane. Summer gasoline runs about 2, which means for a good chunk of the year you are, in a small and completely legal way, driving on lighter fluid. Every coffee chain on Earth makes a whole marketing season out of swapping a recipe twice a year. The fuel industry does the same thing to a product you buy 50 times a year and simply never puts up the sign. So, butane is cheap, it's abundant, and it stretches every barrel further, which makes it genuinely hard to see why anyone would ever take it back out again. The reason is that wanting to become vapor stops being a useful feature the moment it gets warm. Crack a soda that's been sitting in a hot car and you already understand this. Warm liquid, dissolved gas, and it comes out of solution the second it gets a chance. Gasoline does the same thing, except what's leaving is hydrocarbon vapor, and it's leaving from everywhere. The tank in your car, the tank under the station, the hose, every seal and vent in the entire chain. Those vapors are volatile organic compounds. Put them in the air alongside nitrogen oxides from tailpipes, add strong sunlight, and the chemistry cooks them into ozone down at ground level, which is the stuff we all call smog. That flat brown layer sitting on a city on a hot afternoon is this reaction happening, and the timing is genuinely unlucky. The season with the most sunlight and the most heat is the same season the fuel is most willing to evaporate. Peak eagerness meets peak sunshine, so the EPA caps it 9 pounds per square inch through the summer, dropping to 7.8 in the areas with the worst air against a winter fuel that can run as high as 15. It's written into the federal code, and it runs on a calendar. Terminals switch over on the 1st of May, filling stations by the 1st of June, and the whole thing holds until the 15th of September. There's an older reason too, and this one you can feel. Push a fuel that's too volatile through a hot engine bay, and it can boil inside the line before it ever reaches the cylinders. The pump ends up moving bubbles instead of liquid, the engine starves, and you're sitting on the shoulder with your hazards on the hottest day of the year, while your fuel line does an impression of a kettle. So the rule makes sense, but the bill doesn't. They're removing the cheapest ingredient in the mix that should make the stuff cheaper. Two things happen when the butane comes out, and they both cost money. The first one is arithmetic. Butane wasn't a garnish, it was gallons. Take 8 percentage points of your blend away, and the same barrel of crude yields less finished gasoline than it did in January. Supply quietly shrinks. right as the driving season picks up. The second is that you can't simply pour less and call it done. Pull butane out and the fuel still has to hit its octane rating and still has to run properly in an engine. So the space butane was occupying gets backfilled with blend stocks that are genuinely expensive to make. Alkylate, reformate, things that take extra processing units, extra energy, extra time. And the switchover itself has a price. Refineries schedule their big maintenance for the shoulder seasons, and tanks have to be run down to swap grades cleanly. So inventories sit thin at exactly the moment the calendar flips. That's the spring bump you've watched happen every single year without ever being told why. Put it together, and summer fuel costs somewhere around 5 to 15 cents a gallon more to produce, which makes gasoline the only product I can think of where the manufacturer charges you extra for giving you less of something. Imagine your coffee place announcing that from June, drinks cost more because they've reduced the syrup. And all of that assumes there's a single summer rule that everybody follows. There isn't one, there are more than 14 of them. The federal cap is a floor, not the whole picture. Different cities have different air problems, and under the Clean Air Act, an area that fails the ozone standard has to write a plan explaining how it's going to fix that. A lot of them wrote fuel into the plan. Some regions ended up on reformulated gasoline. Others landed on the stricter 7.8 cap, while their neighbors stayed at 9. California went further and wrote its own specification, then split itself into 5 separate zones with 5 different start and end dates. So summer doesn't even begin on the same day inside one state. Nobody sat down and designed this. It accumulated, one regional fix at a time, over decades. And this is the federal government's own map of what it added up to. 7 different volatility specifications, in patches with state lines running straight through the middle of them. And volatility is only one of the dials. Stack the reformulated gasoline rules and the ethanol rules on top of it, and the number of distinct fuels running at once inside one country climbs past 14. Now watch what that does. Fuel moves through pipelines in batches, one product running nose to tail behind the next, and every batch is certified to a specification. So a tanker of gasoline that is perfectly legal on one side of a boundary is simply not sellable on the other side. The fuel is sitting right there, the truck is sitting right there, the road runs straight between them, and that fuel legally cannot go. It's region-locked streaming with a hazmat placard. The show is right there on the same service, and you still can't watch it from where you're standing, which is why a refinery tripping offline doesn't spread out across the country the way a shortage of almost anything else would. It concentrates instead in one metro, which spikes while the region next door, sitting on plenty of fuel it isn't allowed to send, barely moves. When refinery trouble hit the Midwest, federal data put Chicago gasoline more than 20% above the national average. Earlier, it was your car stranded on the shoulder. This time, it's the fuel that's stranded. And it explains something about the way these stories play out. When pump prices climb and there's political pressure to do something fast, the quickest lever anyone actually holds isn't drilling, it's a waiver. Permission to let the cheaper, more volatile winter recipe back into the system ahead of schedule. Which is precisely what the EPA did, ending the summer requirement roughly 2 weeks early, and saying out loud that the point was to lower prices at the pump. So cheaper fuel is on the way, though it was never going to arrive for free. Winter gasoline is cheaper because the butane comes home. Same reason as always, cheap ingredient, more gallons, lower cost per gallon. But butane carries less energy in it than the material it displaced. The Department of Energy says it plainly, winter grades can have slightly less energy per gallon than summer blends. So a gallon of winter fuel does slightly less work than a gallon of summer fuel, which means the discount is quietly billing you back on the other side of the transaction. Now I have to be honest about the size of that, because this is where the internet gets it wrong in the other direction. If your mileage falls apart in January, the fuel is a sliver of it. The cold itself is doing almost all of the damage. City fuel economy runs about 15% lower at 20 degrees than it does at 77. And on short trips, the 3 and 4 mile ones, it can fall by as much as 24%. Thick cold oil, An engine that never reaches temperature, denser air pushing back, tire pressure dropping, the defroster pulling power, and all that time spent idling on the driveway waiting for the windscreen to clear. It's the same thing your phone does when you take it outside in winter and watch the battery percentage fall off a cliff. Chemistry gets sluggish when it's cold, and everything downstream pays for it. So you're not imagining the drop, you're just mostly blaming the wrong bottle. And the pump tells you none of it. August costs more than February because of something they took away. Butane, the cheapest thing in the barrel, and pulling it back out is the entire price. You've been buying two different products under one name your whole driving life, and the only hint you ever got was the number on the sign. The waiver runs to the middle of September, and whether it ever actually reaches your corner is a different question. A supply change takes a couple of weeks to move through the pipelines, and the switchover was only ever worth cents, not dollars. Watch the sign on your street rather than the headline. Either way, I'm Texter, and the next time the price climbs in spring, you'll know it wasn't the road trips. Hit like, subscribe, and tell me in the comments whether you live on one of those boutique fuel islands. I genuinely want to hear how far apart two stations near you can get. This video is AI made, and a real human team went through every line before it reached you, which felt like the right standard for a story about a product that changes twice a year without anyone telling you. If something still slipped past us, tell me, and it won't happen twice.